Hey people, what's up? It's Jameel, and man, I got some allergies this morning. But I want to talk a little bit about the gang stalking program and everything about my strategies. Right, like one of my strategies I was using was what I call grinding through the program. You approach somebody who's a gang stalker, you tell them who you are, you tell them your name, you tell them everything about you. A lot of times I just give them a flyer. I tell them, I just start off, I tell them I'm famous, and I did a bunch of interviews in Hollywood, got set up to be killed, beat that, went through your gang stalking, beat that, now I'm out here helping people beat it. And I'd always approach people, no matter who they were. Sometimes, like when I was in Phoenix, sometimes they'd have anything from old people to gangbangers to police to whoever, and I would just sit there and just rap with them no matter what, no matter who they were. You show me respect, I show you respect. I just sit there and I talk to them. We grind it out, and the cool thing about it was it worked. It became effective, and I got it off watching the gangs. I used to be in Chicago a lot when I was younger, and my father, we have a lot of family in Chicago and stuff. My mother lived there at one point when she was younger, so on both sides of my family, people are familiar with Chicago. And so when I was growing up, I remember, visiting family, visiting relatives and stuff. And there was a certain area where there was gangs. And in Chicago, Chicago's the type of place where even in suburban white areas, there's gangs. In Hispanic areas, there's gangs. In black areas, anywhere you go in Chicago, it's a lot like LA. That's how it happens. And when I was younger, I used to watch these people. And I used to watch them confront each other and bang on each other, And I used to think, wow, that's interesting, man. He's gonna get his ass whooped just because his hat is one way to the next. You know what I mean? It was kind of funny. It was like, it wasn't funny that the person got hurt, but it was funny that that much can happen over nothing, over just somebody's hat, the way they wear their hat. And so when the gang stalking actually happened, I said, wait a minute, gang stalking, huh? And so even though gang stalking doesn't have anything to do with street gangs, it still was interesting. And so I used that formula, and then after that, recently in the last few weeks, I said, you know what? Well, if the gang thing works, what about pimping? Can pimping work? And now growing up, a lot of people don't know. I did a couple interviews a long time ago with somebody in LA, and I was telling them a little bit about my father. My father was born in 1939, and he was born in Jackson, Mississippi. So he grew up in the 40s and in the 50s. So he grew up, way back when, and he went to the Marine Corps when he was 17. And at that time, you didn't need a GED or a high school diploma to go to the Marine Corps. This was 1956, so this is like a little bit after the Korean War, but right before, a little bit after the Korean War, and a little bit before Vietnam. And this was a time where you didn't need any of that. If you were able to just be able to run and stuff, and you had good eyesight, and you could count and read a little bit, that was good enough. And so he went to the Marine Corps. And after the Marine Corps, he ended up with a woman at the time who was a woman who was Miss Black America. At that time in America, there was no just Miss America. You had Miss America, then you had Miss Black America. There was still segregation. And so he ended up with her, and then she told him that she didn't want him to work. She didn't want him to work a regular job, and he was younger than her. And this is in California. He had made his way out to California. And so he's like, what do you mean you don't want me to work? And so she's hustling Johns. She's basically hustling tricks out of a lot of money, talking about a lot of money. And so he's just like, in his mind, he's just like, damn, okay, you don't want me to work, okay. And so he sees that, and then he goes out, and then he starts pimping females and stuff. And now you got to remember, this is back in the late 50s. The late 50s, like 59, 60, 61. I mean, this is before Kennedy even got killed. This is way back in the day when things worked a lot different than they do today. And so he was able to conduct the activity. Then he did that through the 60s, then the 70s. Then when the 80s came, he had stopped. And at that point, what you would call the pimp game ended. It ended in the 80s with the emergence of crack cocaine. Crack cocaine a lot of those women turn into crackheads, and a crackhead will do anything for $10. So instead of a woman making $100 or a couple $100 or $300-400 or sometimes even $1,000, somebody could give her some crack to give him some head or something. You know what I mean? And so he met my mother, but him and my mother were married before I was born. It wasn't that type of situation where where he I was like a plan child and everything. So at that point, my father slowed down, and then he ended up dying when I was about 5, right? And so I think a fast life leads to, a fast death. He could have lived a lot longer, but he drank a lot of alcohol and all that stuff. And I think him doing all that stuff in his past, caught up with him. He smoked a lot of cigarettes and stuff like that. And so anyway, growing up, I was around a lot of people who were older, who had been extremely associated with the pimp game, the real pimp game. The real pimps out of Chicago who were at the Players Ball. We're talking about back in like the early 60s, mid 60s, late 60s, early 70s, And so I'm thinking this, growing up, I look at this stuff, and these guys are kind of funny. They look kind of like clowns, like the way they dress. And I'm like, how are these guys, how the hell are they out here pimping these? How the hell are they doing this? And so I had an uncle, and when you see these guys' pictures, you see old pictures of them like gator shoes and nice Cadillacs and nice rings, stuff like that. And I'm like, man, they're out here really doing this stuff. And so I'm in the car with my uncle and his friend, and they're rolling down the street, and now there's a female. Now this is Chicago, there's a female, and she's already out there hoeing for another pimp. And my uncle's like, I'm going to be able to get her. And I'm thinking, man, how the hell are you going to be able to get her? And, she's a hoe, and she has somebody she's hoeing for. I'm like, what I mean? I don't understand. I'm younger. I'm just watching this stuff. And he starts talking to her. And now, you got to remember, this is in the 90s when it already was over with. Like, the big era of the pimp and hoe thing was already over with. But because you still had a lot of older people around who were there, that in their mind it's still going on. And so he's like talking to her and stuff like that. And now she's not supposed to look at him because she already knew by looking at him. He was on some pimping, and so she's not focused on him. And he's all like, yeah, you I see you out there. He just talking to her. He's just shooting game at her, and she's walking. He's like, look, your feet. You dropped something. You got something. Look, I'm trying to show you. You dropped some money on your shoe. Look. And she bends down. She looks at him, and then she bends down, and he's all like, yeah, why you're out here looking at me messing around. You could have been getting some money. See, you're listening to me. I know who your old man is. I know who your man is. I'm gonna go back and tell him, and he's gonna end up whooping your ass or something. You might as well just come with me because I'm about to go out of town. You can just give me what you know what I'm saying? Yeah, then I'm peppering her. I'm like, God damn! I'm like, you did that? And I was like, so she gave him some money, and she came inside the car, and I'm like, how did you do that? And he's like, and he's all like, and so as time goes on, I'm starting to see, man, these guys are some master manipulators, And so I'm out there peeping the scene, checking all stuff out. And so now when the gang stalking hits me, I'm like, you know what? I beat the program, but can I pimp the program? You know what I mean? Can I turn the program out? And it worked. It fucking worked. I manipulated the program, and I had the program putting females, like they put females out with tight pants and shit on, so I could look at them and stuff like that. And you know how women in the program walk on a track? They walk on the whole stroll of the track. I live in a cul-de-sac, and I manipulate to the program to where the program be putting females on the track. They be putting them in sexy clothes and having them walking and stuff like that. I'm like, God damn, I pimped the program. I pimped the fucking program. And so, not only that with JAMEEL Rawls, not only do you learn how to beat the program, but you learn how to pimp the program. We pimped on the program, boy. We pimped the program. That's what I'm talking about. Hey, for people just tuning in, listen to JAMEEL Rawls. Fuck beating the program. We're gonna show you how to pimp the program. We're gonna show you how to pimp this bitch, boy. Pimp the program. That's what it says. So not only do you beat the program, you pimp the program with JAMEEL Rawls.